Hello and welcome to your daily Google News. I have got a value bomb to end all value bombs, I think, and I'm really proud of it, to be honest with you, because it's about Facebook, and we're not Facebook people. We're not a Facebook agency. We've run Facebook in the past, and we have some clients that dip in their toes into Facebook, but I'm not a Facebook expert, and I think that we cracked the code on how to fix the iOS14 issue, which I'll dive deeper into. But the reason I'm proud is because it should have been a Facebook agency that figured this out. And to my knowledge, nobody else has done this. This is brand new. This is just from us. This is straight from, us to you. So, you're welcome. And that's, maybe statement number one, and hopefully that doesn't sound arrogant. But statement number two is, because we're not a Facebook agency, there are implications here that I might not understand. So if you are a Facebook agency, if you're a smarter person than I am, please feel free to challenge my assumptions here. If you find errors or issues with the approach, number one. Number two, I'd love to know how it is that you plan on using this, because even though we are the ones that came up with the solution, I have a feeling that there's way more creative output to be had from people, again, that are smarter than me. I will say, again, if you don't mind me dipping my toe into the world of mild arrogance, I won an award. Check it out. It says, Wicked Smart. I'm a part of a mastermind called War Room, and War Room is a group of the smartest, most successful, wealthiest people I've ever known, and somehow I was allowed in, and I just hang back, to be honest with you, and learn from these, and these are folks that have done, 9 figures and invented things and conquered planets, and really, really brilliant people. They saw the merit in this enough that I was awarded that. Why am I saying that? Well, I guess because what I want you to know that I'm not posturing. There's some validity to this beyond, an excitable guy on YouTube that just likes people's attention. So, with that said, I'm going to give you what I got, and then I hope that we can, round table this a little bit and build a community around it, because I really do think that this is important. Fixing Facebook. How are we going to do that? First, I'll just briefly describe the problem. First of all, if you're interested in this video, you should already know this, but just in case you've been living under a rock, Facebook is blind. Facebook was blinded by the iOS14 update, which is Apple saying, you now have to get people's permission to track. And, at last count, I think 90% of people have chosen not to allow Facebook, and other apps, of course, but Facebook is the big one, not to allow Facebook to track your activity, which means Facebook, which is a machine learning mechanism that uses your activity in order to optimize towards a defined goal, hasn't been able to do that, which is why everybody's Facebook campaigns died. Which, by the way, when I was at the War Room event, that's all I heard, is a bunch of really brilliant people on stage saying, Facebook has died and we have no idea what to do. And we're talking about folks that spend, tens of millions. In one instance, I think, potentially more than that for one particular organization whose name I won't drop. And I think that the capabilities that I'm about to share with you are well equipped to fix that. So, some foundational knowledge that you need to have in order for any of this to make sense is Facebook released its conversions API, which is just kind of like Google's offline conversion tracking, but maybe more robust. And what it does is it allows you to take your first-party data, meaning data that you captured from the prospect, and push it back into Facebook, which in theory lifts the veil a little bit on the blinders that have been put on Facebook. And what I've heard from people that would know, including Ralph Burns over at Tier 11, my co-host at Perpetual Traffic, which you should tune into every Tuesday, who has the world authority in Facebook agencies. And what I've experienced myself is that using Facebook's conversion API does, in fact, improve the efficacy of your Facebook campaigns. The problem is you have to wait until after a conversion. You can only push data until after somebody converts, which means you have to wait for them to fill out a form. And if you know anything about the sales funnel, the marketing funnel, that's the very end of the interaction with the customer, and there's all these incremental actions that take place between, your first interaction with them and them actually being willing to convert. And those incremental actions, those predictive indicators of success, that's what Facebook has been using, in theory, to optimize your campaign. So waiting until after the conversion, you lose the majority of what would have led to the conversion in the first place. Or is there another option? Is there an alternative? Is there a fix? Dun, dun, dun. Here's what we're doing. and I think this is flippin' brilliant, y'all, if you don't mind me saying myself. And I can say that because the maybe umbrella idea was mine, but the guy that actually figured this out is our CTO, Ivan. Brilliant, brilliant young man. I love him to death. I hope he never sees this because I don't like complimenting him to his face. But he's the one that really cracked the code from a technical perspective. So what we're doing is we're using Hotjar, and we've tried other screen recording software, True Conversion, Lucky Orange. Hotjar is the only one that works for this. And I think some of that has to do with its integration with Zapier. You record the sessions that are landing from Facebook. And by the way, this isn't theoretical. We've done it. We've tried it. We've tested it. It improved the Facebook campaign that we were testing it on by a factor of 300% improvement in a day. So I think that improvement actually would have scaled up further. But we just haven't had that much time playing with this, to be honest with you. And we don't have as significant a spend in our campaigns as you might. So I'd love other people, if you get your hooks into this idea, I'd love to know what it is that you've been able to do. So Hotjar monitors on-site activity. And what we're now doing is we can use Hotjar to push information back into Facebook using the Conversions API via Zapier. Here's what that means. Hotjar captures the entire URL. It captures when somebody clicks on a Facebook ad and they land on your website. In the URL is a bunch of gobbledygook, UTM parameters, but most importantly, the Facebook click ID, FBCLID. The Facebook click ID. This is the data point, the singular data point that Facebook needs when you're pushing data back using their Conversions API. Some of you already know what it is that I'm proposing. What we're doing is using Zapier. We take the Hotjar recording. We filter out people that are that have a Facebook click ID. I forget what this other filter is. I have another slide for it. We extract that Facebook click ID, and then we push that into Facebook and append it to the event that we're trying to identify or isolate here. This is where, and let me just pause and look at you. This is where some creativity is necessary on your part. You need to define what these events are. But what's really cool about Hotjar is it's so robust. It can be time on site, the number of pages that they hit. Hotjar has its own lead scoring. But you can gauge engagement in milliseconds. So you get to come and define what your micro conversions are, and you can start piping that into Facebook, and then you can start optimizing by those micro conversions. Y'all, this fixes the problem that we've had up to this point. So if your Facebook campaign died, it's going to take some manual intervention. It's going to take some creativity in terms of identifying what those events are. But this will re-equip Facebook with the information necessary to begin optimizing towards the ends, the goals that you've had this entire time. So we're using filter, so we're only pushing events that have the Facebook click ID. And then we have several options. Okay, so this is the second filter, is the quality filter. You can filter events based off of duration, exit page, action count, which is defined by Hotjar, relevant score also defined by Hotjar. So play with Hotjar, because, and there's more than what I have listed here. It's far more robust, and it's also going to be ultra specific based off of your use case, and what it is that you're driving towards. If you have a funnel, which is very it's myopic in scope, it's singular. That might be a little bit easier than if you have a website that has tendrils everywhere. Although I think the website is probably going to convert better in many instances, especially now. Think about, here's the other, just a quick brief aside. It might behoove you to move from funnels to sites where applicable and possible, because your ability to capture micro conversion data is improved. And so this is going to change the way that we market in some instances, because when somebody visits a new page, that's an intrinsic qualification of intent. Well, they can't visit a new page if you have a funnel and it's all one big long landing page. You can have lines of demarcation, but that's not always quite as effective. So you need to think about the way that you're approaching your customers with this new paradigm in mind. Quality filter, and then we're going to extract the Facebook click ID from the URL to push it into Lord Facebook. We're going to use Zapier's split text and extract the Facebook click ID from the URL. And then we're going to push that back into Facebook and append it to the specific campaign ad set or ad inside of Facebook. Now, this extraction process has a nuance that I'll share with you here in just a moment. You're then going to connect it to your Facebook account, and you can see that we tested it with our Montessori agency here, and that allows you to then push this lead, this action, this activity back into Facebook, along with additional information. So things like the event time ID, source URL. You can even push additional data back, depending on the data that you've been able to collect or capture. The odds of it being wildly robust, I think, are pretty limited. But again, I don't know your specific use case, so I want you to know that you actually have the capabilities of doing this. Zapier is amazing, by the way. It's the keys to the internet. I have no idea why it's so cheap. It's unbelievable. I'm such a fan. And then, of course, you can test it. You can see in your Zap history every Zap that was fired and filtered. Which is really helpful. So this is what's really cool, is one, you can use it to optimize for specific events, meaning incremental conversions, meaning you've got this whole funnel, and Facebook used to be able to see the whole funnel, and now, Apple blinded it so that it can just see where users come from, Facebook, and then potentially what users after the fact, conversion API. Well, now you can kind of poke holes in that so that Facebook, you can poke holes in the veil so Facebook can start to see things, and it can see more based off of the holes that you poke. You can make those holes really big by creating additional conversion events and piping those back in. That's a little tedious. Do the work, especially if you have big ad spends. You can also, and this gets a little speculative, by the way, but you can report full conversions to Facebook, which I actually think will help you juice the algorithm. I think that what you can do is you can take people that have a significant time on site, added things to the cart and then bounced, have taken action that show them to be of higher quality than just your standard visitor, and instead of piping them in as some other event, I'd actually pipe them into Facebook as this was a purchase, this was a lead, because that's not just nomenclature. All those events, like, Facebook wants to see what it is that people are doing, because that stands as an indicator that other people like them might do more of that. And what that could do is start getting more people like that to your site, because Facebook thinks they have purchased, and potentially jump-starting your campaign. Now, that is flawed because you just screwed up all your data. And I'm sure the Facebook experts, by the way, might have a bunch of reasons why that's a bad idea. I would love for you to tell me. I think it's Ninja. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then maybe the most important thing is you can now build a remarketing audience using these users. So you can build a remarketing audience based off of these standard events. This is exactly what iOS 14 was trying to stop. This is exactly what they were veiling, is who these folks are and what they did. We've got that data. Y'all, we just cracked the iOS 14 code. I'm so excited about this and about what it potentially means from you. And by the way, I don't offer Facebook ad management. I don't want to offer Facebook ad management. There's no sales pitch whatsoever. I'm doing this because I want to help people, and infinitely more importantly, because I want attention and admiration. So I hope that what I'm really trying to say is I don't have a dog in this fight. Like, there's no reason for me to try to convince you of this than other than the fact that I think that it works. So creating this remarketing audience, by the way, means that you're creating a remarketing audience with first-party data. I think one of the coolest things about this is they can't take it away from us. I've had some other ninja hacks that, I'm like, well, I'm not telling anybody about this because they're just going to change the rules. This is one where you have to pass Facebook Click ID through the URL. You have to. And I can take that, and then I can create standard events and push them back into Facebook. So I think the risk is lower here. Let me share something with you just briefly, because one of the really important nuances here is when you're pushing the Facebook Click ID back into Facebook, you'll notice that it's actually not asking for the FBC LID. Where does it go? I'm using the wrong words. Hold on, this is important. Yeah, so FBC LID is what's given to you in the URL string. What Zapier asked for is the FBC. Now, the FBC is in your browser cookie. The problem is we're spoofing this, so we don't have a browser cookie. So we had to go figure out what FBC is. So the FBC is a parameter that is made up of the version plus the subdomain index plus the creation time plus the Facebook Click ID, the FBC LID. You have to create that. So it's always FB dot 1 is the default value, by the way. And if I'm being really honest, I don't know why they make us do this. It seems stupid. It's like, isn't the traffic always coming from Facebook? So if you know the reason for this, I'd be really interested. It's in the developer's documentation, and I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. And then you need to, so it's FB dot 1 dot creation time but it has to be Unix time. What's really cool is Zapier has the ability to drop in Unix time. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy this little code here, and I'll make sure that this link is included in the description of this video. And you're going to come down and you're going to see fb.1.unix time, which Zapier is giving me the short code. That's what it does. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Webcam toy. That's the site I use to take my screenshots, by the way, if anybody's interested. So you notice that there's always an image of me in the thumbnail. This is where I go to do that. Quick pro tip. You can just... It's not going to let me do it now because my camera's already engaged. How do I go get... and I explained that, by the way, because webcam toy kind of sounds weird, and I didn't want you all to think that... So you notice that right when I paste that, it becomes like a shortcode in Zapier. But before that shortcode, you can see it roll over. So we're going to go fb.1.unix timestamp dot, and then you're going to input the text extraction that you created in your earlier Zap parsing. And we've tested this and it works, is what I'm telling you. So if you can't make it work, then you have some finagling to do, because there's obviously something in your settings that just needs to be improved or whatever. But I think that's it. I am, like I said, super excited. Hopefully I haven't been too annoying about... it's fun to solve problems that can help people. And so hopefully you'll forgive any of my exuberance just through that veil, view it in that direction. That's all I got. I'd love for you to poke holes in this wherever they exist. I'd actually really hate to see this obliterated. And I don't see that being the case, to be honest with you. I mean, it's an intelligent way to capture first-party data, which is sound. It's sound. But most importantly, I'd actually really be interested in how people plan on using this. So if you have a creative use case that I haven't thought of or haven't said here, drop it in the comments, please, please. Share this with others, because I think this could be a big deal for a lot of people, a lot of Facebook advertisers. That's all I got. I shoot a video every day, mostly on Google stuff, sometimes just general entrepreneurship. I interview some cool people. So if you want to like or comment and subscribe, I'd love for you to do that. I'm also the co-host of Perpetual Traffic, which is consistently one of the top 10 marketing podcasts in the world. And we go live every Tuesday. So if you want to hear more from me and my buddy Ralph over at Tier 11, then please tune in. And we'd love you to show up and listen in. And that's all I got. So like, comment, subscribe. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you later.